Oh no. There we go. Hi, and welcome to the Artsy Fartsy Club. I am so glad that you're here with me today. My name is Mrs. Johnson, and we are going to get right into our artwork that we were working on last time. And let's see if we have everything ready to go. Of course not, Mrs. Johnson. Okay, so we're going to work like this today. So we have our art over here that we worked on last time. So if you missed that, you can go back to that video for the part one. It's called Drawing a Cool Car in a Hot City. And we just talked about setting this drawing up, okay? So we were learning about a few important words, and they are foreground, middle ground, background, and horizon line, okay? And so we talked about the foreground is the front, okay? The things that are right up here in front of me. And then our cool car is in the middle. That is our middle ground. Then there's this line here that disappeared behind our car. And each time we're making these layers and things are overlapping each other, it is creating depth, an illusion of depth in our image, okay? And we're not really working on perspective yet. That's another level deeper than what we're doing right now, but we're just trying to create that illusion. And so the horizon line is that line that's imaginary where the sky touches the ground. There's not a literal line there. It's because our earth is curving, right? Gradually, and it's so huge that we don't actually see the curve. But where the atmosphere is touching the earth, then that creates a line in our vision. And that line, depending on how high you are, can be way off in the distance. Or if you are just on the ground, it can be pretty close to you, depending on where you are, what you're seeing, okay? So we created that horizon line, and then our background was our city. And then the next step was to take a Sharpie. And so I said, hey, go Sharpie all of this in, and we will work on this next week. Well, here we are. And if you did it correctly and you sharpened everything in, you might still see some pencil lines, and we need to address that. We don't want our pencil lines to show through our art. So I'm just taking a big eraser, just like what you would have at home. Other erasers you might have is like a gray kneaded eraser, an art eraser. Love those. But the ones I really love the most, other than pink ones, are the green, the rectangle green erasers. They're really chunky. Those are absolutely my favorite. But I just chose to use this one because this is very similar to what you would just have at school, or you might have at your home. If you don't have a big eraser like this, you can use a pencil. It's just that we use a lot of eraser for doing art and big projects like this, so it might use up your pencil eraser. And that's okay. But I'm just trying to look for anywhere I see pencil lines that didn't quite exactly get traced. Okay, and you guys remember why we do this? So we have good craftsmanship, and good craftsmanship means that our art is nice and neat. We want our art nice and neat because when it is nice and neat, you get to charge more for your art. Your art is better. It's higher quality. And I want you guys to have a nice high quality artwork. All right. There we go. Oh, I see a couple more. Now, coloring this. Today I'm going to use watercolors and colored pencils. You can use crayons. You could use markers. You could use all colored pencils. You could use all watercolors. You could even use tempera paints. Now, the only problem with tempera paints is if you paint over your Sharpie, it will be hidden, and you will have to come back in and re-Sharpie over your Sharpie again. Okay, even acrylic paints, really. But I want to not have to do that. So we're going to use watercolor paints. Okay, so all nice and clean. I'm double checking. And you know, my goodness, it is tricky because it's such a big piece of paper. We're using a 12 by 18 that sometimes we will miss spots and we'll go, oh, I didn't get that. Oh, I didn't get this. All right. Lots and lots of eraser stuff. All right. So here we go, gang. I am going to go ahead and start coloring. Now, we talked a few episodes ago now, we talked about our warm and cool colors. And for our lower elementary kids, we made some cool cats and we made hot dogs. And we talked about how red, orange, and yellow make a hot dog and green, blue, and purple make cool cats. So we talked about our warm or hot colors and our cool colors. So we're going to continue that theory. We're building on that concept and now doing a little bit more complicated art. Okay. So, oh, and by the way, on Wednesdays, I drop a pre-recorded video, and especially teachers that like cross-curricular art projects. We did a onomatopoeia umbrella, and we talked about some lines and folding and cutting, symmetry. And then we also talked about onomatopoeia. And onomatopoeia are those sound words. So you can go back to that one too. It's a great fun little lesson. That's a one-dayer, and it's quick and fun. All right, back to this. So the reason that I'm going to use watercolors at all is because I want to be able to color in my spaces quickly, because it is a larger sheet of paper, because it is that 12 by 18, that I want to be able to get it done more quickly and have a faster result. Now, since these are watercolor paints, we need to activate them. The important word in watercolor paints is the water. And I take a dab of water and I'm going to activate my red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Okay. I am not using any of the brown or black today, just these ones. And I can either use it straight out of there, but that's not that interesting. Or I can mix colors together. So if I put red here on my palette, I can rinse my brush. Always rinse your brush when you're changing colors. Otherwise, they get dirty and yucky, and we don't want to have that. And then I could even mix colors together right here. So now I just kind of made a red-orange. So it's not just straight orange. It's not just red. And I'm gonna, whoa, getting a little crazy there, Mrs. Johnson. I'm gonna put some yellow over here. And get a dab of that orange. And I'm gonna make a yellowy orange. All right. So if I want to color a big space, so let's say I'm trying to color out this road or sky, I'm going to go ahead and just color in that big area with my paintbrush. Okay. And I'm not even worrying about my colored pencils yet. Now, this is a really nice thick drawing paper. So it works like a watercolor paper, less expensive than watercolor paper, just so you know. A great alternative for people that want to be able to do a wide variety of projects. I recommend just getting a ream of this stuff. But if you have the spare money to do nice watercolor paper, go for it. It's always fun to have the nice stuff. Okay, and I'm just going around all of my buildings and objects. And if I get a little in an object, don't sweat the small stuff. It'll be okay. We can come back and fix that later. Because this will dry fairly quickly. We always can come in with a hair dryer. But we'll start on our other objects while we're waiting for this to dry, and we can come back in later. Okay, so see how it's all the sky stuff. So I'm going around all the buildings. And do you have to do the yellow orange? Absolutely not. You could have done the red orange. You could have done red. It's your imagination. Okay, your imagination is your only limitation. That's what I like to say. And did you guys see where I missed a spot? You have to double check. Especially be careful that you don't want to run out of a color that you mix. Sometimes it's hard to color match when you're first learning to mix your colors. So that would be disappointing. But right here in between these buildings, scoot in there. Okay. So since I'm doing boo, I can get a clean brush and just wipe off that little doobie as much as I can. I'll be able to paint over that. No problem. Okay. Since I'm doing a cool car in a hot city, I am going to go ahead and paint all of my picture in the hot colors, and just my car is going to be cool. I could do this where I do the background in the hot colors, and then the middle ground in the cool colors, and then in the front, it's more realistic colors. That would be another option. But for this project, we're just going to keep to those two color theories and let the rest go. So I'm going to use my orange, red, and I'm going to start coloring my street because that's another really big area that it's going to benefit me to get that colored in fast. I want to see fast results that make me proud of my art. It makes me excited that I start to see things coming together. Do those biggest spaces first. Those are the most daunting ones. So there's this saying that business people like to use, and it's called eat the frog. And that sounds really gross. Oh, I skipped a line when I was tracing. Oh my goodness gracious. Stuff happens. Okay. So eat the frog is to get the thing you don't want to have to do, get it done first. Okay. Because wouldn't the day be awful if you thought all day long about having to eat a frog all day? So you might as well eat it in the morning and just get it done with and then go on with the rest of your day. So get those big spaces. You're like, ugh, I don't want to have to color the background. That's a lot of work. That's why we're doing the watercolor, and get it done right away so that we can move on. Let's see. There we go. My little ruler. I just noticed that I accidentally skipped right here in between my car and the cloud. That line. Boop. Right there. That was for the road. The other one's hidden behind the car. Just barely got hidden, but accidentally missed that one. All right. And we continue. So got that red orange. Filling in those big spaces. And we're still going. Oh, it's going to be close. I might run out of my red orange and have to remix it. And then we're going to talk about colored pencils. Not all colored pencils are created equal. And that will come into play later. But there are more expensive colored pencils. I kind of think that they're worth it. Can you use the less expensive pencils? Sure. Will they give you quite the same result? Meh, maybe not. So if you're able to splurge, it might be one of those things that I would recommend that you do. Okay, I just got a little bit of water on my brush because that's going to help my paint spread more and last just a little bit longer. If you put too much water, your color will get too light, and then that's not going to help you at all anyway. But I wanted it to be able to spread a little bit easier. If you're finding that it's just leaving a lot of like dragging on the paper and leaving a lot of white spaces, then you need to add some water on your brush. The key word, once again, in watercolors is water, and you really need that water to make it flow. All right, so you know what? I've got this whole kind of light, medium, and I'm going maybe darker as I come here. So I might just use a red or maybe a slightly red-orange. I don't want it to be just straight red out of my container. That's just, like I said, no fun. Oh my goodness gracious. You know what I did forget today was a paper towel, and I'm dripping. And poor Mrs. Johnson. Okay. Let's get water on that brush. Now, the tricky part here is going to be getting all that grass up there with my brush. Okay, getting in between all of my things. Once again, if I go over my objects a little bit, I'm not going to sweat it. So, oops, oops, oops. It's going to be okay. I promise. I'll show you how we'll fix that later. Okay, but I'm going to try to keep it out of there. Try to be nice and neat. But if it goes in, I'm not going to sweat the small stuff, right? All right, we're getting those big areas first. Again, does anybody remember what's the name of this area of my drawing in the front? So I said front because of the F. And it is called the foreground, okay? The foreground is the front, F and F, right, of your drawing. And that's going to help you remember that, I hope. All the way around. Now, if I was doing this just for my students, I usually would have, except for the very first class, I would have one that's like partially or mostly painted through. Oh no, I just grabbed the wrong thing. That's mostly painted through. And then so I could switch, like in mid-conversation, I'd be like, and now here's the progression of that. Now I painted all that in. So I would fast forward for them. So if you're in the replay crew, that's ideal because you could just fast forward through what Mrs. Johnson is saying right now and get to the end of when I have all this red colored in. You can 2 times me, double speed. All right, almost, almost, almost. And now here we get into the tricky part. I got to do all that grass I did. So I'm just using just the tip, trying to touch lightly. And you know what? I could probably get away with just going across if I really wanted to and coming back in with that colored pencil, which I might, because ain't nobody got time for that. All right. How are you guys doing? I hope you're keeping up. Now I've got to get into between the rest of my my shapes here in the foreground. I'm running out of my paint. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Ooh, the sky is getting nice and dry. That's a positive. Those giggles are provided by my daughter and her friend in the background. She had friends spend the night, and now they are doing girl time, whatever that is. Okay, almost done. I'm just going to go ahead and rock this part out because I'm going to come back in with the color pencil for these little details. I know, you're probably panicking, like, should I really do that? Okay. I'm rinsing off my brush. I am going to regret not having, oh, I do have a rag. Way to go, Mrs. Johnson. Okay. We will come back to the rag in a little bit and set aside my watercolors. How in the world am I making such a mess? I think it's because I built on the crack of my tray. And a shove. Okay. Here we go. All right, you're with me, guys. Here we go. All right, I'm going to take my hot colors and I'm going to start going to town. So I've got red and yellow and orange. And I had a hard time this morning finding my Prismacolor. Okay, so Prismacolor, there's all different kinds of colored pencils. I highly don't recommend, what is even the name of it? Oh, foo-foo. There's a brand that's like the cheapest brand that you can buy when you're back to school and you're like, that's the cheapest box of colored pencils. I want the cheap box of colored pencils for my kid. Don't do it. It's awful. They don't color nice. They don't sharpen nice. They break a lot. They can actually jam your pencil sharpener. They're awful. Crayola, Prang, Faber, those are better brands. But the bestest that I really like is Prismacolor. The pigment comes out really nice. It has really solid coverage. So you can layer things. And they even have little blending pencils. Mine's broken right now, but it's a little blender, which is, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but see how it's a kind of a clear, and you can go over your art with that and it'll help those colored pencils blend together. Primo stuff. I love Prismacolors. They're my favorite. Not sponsored whatsoever. I am not important for that. So I'm going to go ahead and start using these. And down here, it's probably still a little too damp, but I can start getting into the upper area. And so remember, cool car, hot city. So the car's going to stay cool. Everything else is hot. So depending on how detailed I want to be, once again, my imagination is my only limitation. And I do notice this does have a little wet where I'm trying to work right now. All right. Oh, look at those Prismas just go right over it. No problem. My Prismacolors are not phased. We laugh in the face of water. Water schmatter. All right, good job. You guys are following along? Okay. Poof. Hot colors filled in. Now, I can add details with my colored pencils. I can draw windows. I can add in shading. Once again, your imagination is your limitation, okay? And so one of the things I did want to show you, so like, let's say I want to create the illusion of some kind of like sunrise or sunset. So I can actually come in here and start to layer in colored pencils over my watercolor. Okay, I can even come in and make, I know it's going to be probably really hard for you to see. We'll layer it. Cloud shapes. My upper area is still a little damp. If you want to speed up your drying, just get it with a hairdryer. As long as you don't have like really soupy areas, like really puddly, that's what the word I'm looking for, a really puddly area of water that would spread when you went to dry it off. All right, can you guys see it starting to form here? Doesn't look as good on camera as it does in real life, which is a little sad. All right, let's see. Okay, I could put birds in the sky. I could kind of do whatever. That makes sense that we can layer over those watercolors. So let's say, okay, I did that. And I want to come down here and I want to do the same for my flower. And it's going to go right over that painted area. No sweat. It's just going to add more detail. It's going to make it more interesting to look at. So this is where you get into the affect of art, doing art for art's sake, that feel good art moment where it just starts to become about being quiet in your mind. Okay, and did you guys see how I'm layering here again? So I went from yellow to orange to red. I could have done it more. I could have done a red orange, a yellow orange, you know, kind of putting in those little details of shading and shadows and lights to darks. Okay, making it more interesting to look at. It is still a little damp. Not coloring as nice as I'd like it. I might wait on that part. All right. But you're starting to get the idea how we can keep going and layering in. And then I might go ahead and just start addressing my car so you have an idea of like the hot versus the cool. And so cool colors. Do you guys remember what those are now? Green, blue, and purple make a cool cat. All right. So we've got purple and greens. And some blues and purples and greens. Got them all the colors. Here we go. Okay, so I have a variety of colors. Now, you can make your car as cool as you want. So imagine that you are on, what was that show? This is going to age me because I don't know if this show still exists, but the Pimp My Ride or Pimp My Car, Pimp My Ride, Pimp My Ride, right? And they would make these cool cars and they'd have these like amazing paint jobs and all these cool things. So you could have like speakers coming off your car. You could have had a slushy machine, right? The like home, the video home. You could have had, I don't even know. You can have like jet boosters and all the stuff. I just made a little puff cloud, right? The exhaust is coming out of my cool background. But your imagination is your only limitation. So same with coloring. Your paint job can be whatever you want it to be. Okay. You decide how cool is your car. So maybe I want my car to be the bubble car, or maybe I want it to have like a lightning on the side. Okay. I don't know. And then I'm starting out light and I'm going to build. Okay. I can build and build and build, layering my color pencil until I don't see any of that white space left. And you can even do techniques where you come back in and erase some of that colored pencil to make highlights. Okay. But this is a simple project. We're not going for photorealism here. We're having fun. It's intended for primary, middle school kids. Let's see. I'm going to make, oh no, what did I used to do? I'm trying to think of what some of the things I would do for this project with my students. I'm making it have flames coming off the back. You know, my layman paint job. All right. I wish I had all of my colors. Sadly, I do not. The more colors you have, the more, those look actually pretty much the same. Boo. The more variety and detail that you can add to your project. Maybe it's a elements car. Some fire, some, and now I'm doing a lot of blending. You can even block color. Like it doesn't have to be blended like this. You can go, I want this to look like some sort of laser light. Okay. That makes sense, guys? And I'm like, okay, this is what I decided. This space is going to be this solid color. Okay, so you can do shading, you can do organic shapes, whatever you want it to be, and then decide this area is going to be something else. But the only rule is that it needs to be in the cool colors, because it's our cool car in a hot city. And you're demonstrating that you have an understanding of cool versus warm colors, okay? All right, let's see, how are we doing on our time? Almost done with our time for today. And so I would just continue, gang. Just keep going. Use your imagination. This might take a while. And honestly, as a teacher, I would probably give them 2 sessions to color. So it was 1 session to do all to introduce that foreground, middle ground, background, do their drawing, trace with the markers, and erase. And then now probably 2 days of coloring. So starting with the watercolors that first day, and I would not offer watercolors on the second day. They shouldn't need it because they've already done their big spaces first. And then now I can come back into these big spaces and I can draw other things. So I could make a rock here if I wanted. I could make a bush. I can make whatever, flowers. That makes sense? So I can still layer over those big spaces and add in things that, you know, I hadn't thought of the first time when I was drawing. And I go, oh, you know what? I've got empty space and I've got extra time in class. I'm going to add more details, because we know the more details we have in our art, the more interesting it is to look at. Okay, and then maybe some flowers over here and some stuff. But just adding in, layering in those different things to make it more fun to look at. And I can change the colors by the pressure I put on. So the harder pressure I put on my colored pencil, the darker it is. And then the lighter my pressure of my colored pencil, the lighter it is. More of that white paper shows through, so I can give illusions of like shading and stuff. All right, so I hope that you guys take the time to finish coloring this in, and I'll be sure to finish this up and I'll post it so that you can see what a finished project should look like. I'll make sure I put it on the Instagram and the Facebook, and maybe even do a short so you guys can see it on the YouTube. But I hope that you've had fun with me today. Again, my name is Mrs. Johnson, and you've learned so much today. You've learned about foreground, middle ground, background. We did layering. We've done our warm and our cool colors. You're amazing. So if this is your first time with us, now you are an official member of the Artsy Fartsy Club. Yeah. I'm so proud of you. You're wonderful. I would love to see your art, so make sure that you share with me. Boom. You can find me on Instagram at artsy_club. Send me your pictures. You can DM them. You can add them comments onto our video announcement. All of those things. You can email them to me at the Artsy Fartsy Club email, which is the artsyfartsyclubhq@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out my website where you can order more art kits and things to do. I would love to teach you some more and to help you have a good time. Thank you once again so much for joining me, Mrs. Johnson. And until I see you again, I hope that you are absolutely artastic.